This is one of those moments where everything feels like it's lining up at just the right time. The 49ers are in the playoffs, the margin for error is officially gone, and suddenly the conversation has shifted from just getting in to whether this team can actually make noise. You're heading into Philadelphia as an underdog, on the road, in one of the loudest environments in football, and yet the door just cracked open in a way that nobody expected a few days ago. That's what makes this so interesting, because playoff runs don't always start with dominance. Sometimes they start with timing. You already know the stakes here. The Super Bowl is at Levi's Stadium. That's not just a fun talking point. That's the ultimate motivator. Every team says they want a ring, but for this group, playing the final game of the season at home is a real possibility if they can just keep winning. And that journey starts right now, against an Eagles team that most people have already penciled in as the winner. That's fine. This team has lived in that space before, and being underestimated has never been a problem for the 49ers. What changes everything, though, is health. Not perfect health, not some miracle scenario where everyone is suddenly back, but meaningful progress where it actually matters. This matchup was always going to be decided by availability as much as talent, and that's where the news starts to tilt the conversation. When you're talking about playoff football, getting even one impact player back can completely change how a game is played, how a defense lines up, and how confident an offense feels walking onto the field. Before we get deeper into that, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. Injury news moves fast in the playoffs, and you don't want to miss last-minute updates that could change everything about this game. We're also closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and if you enjoy straight-up no-hype Niners coverage, hitting that subscribe button really does help more than you think. And if you're already locked in, go ahead and like the video to show support. Now I want to hear from you early. Do you think the 49ers have a real shot to pull off this upset in Philadelphia? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments, because this fan base is more split on this game than you might expect. The reason that confidence is starting to rise at all comes down to one thing: the injury report finally bringing good news instead of bad. And at the center of all of it is the most important player on this roster, not named Christian McCaffrey. If he's trending in the right direction, everything about this matchup changes. Let's talk about why Trent Williams being back on the field could flip this game in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. When you start talking about Trent Williams, you're not just talking about an injury update. You're talking about a complete shift in how the 49ers are allowed to play football. This is a future Hall of Famer, and when he's not on the field, the offense simply does not function the same way. You saw it immediately when he missed the Seattle game. The run game stalled, the edges weren't sealed, and suddenly everything felt harder than it needed to be. That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when the best left tackle in football isn't there to erase defenders. What makes this news so encouraging is not just that Trent Williams is trending in the right direction, but that he's back on the practice field. In the playoffs, that matters. Practice participation is often the first real sign that a player has a chance to go, and for the 49ers, that alone is a massive step forward. Kyle Shanahan has already hinted that if the schedule had lined up differently, Williams might not have missed time at all. Now you're looking at a situation where he has a legitimate chance to be out there in Philadelphia, and if that happens, the entire game plan opens up. This matchup against the Eagles makes his potential return even more important. Philadelphia is a strong defensive team. There's no denying that, but they are not flawless. One of the few areas where they've shown vulnerability is on outside zone runs, and that just so happens to be the foundation of the 49ers offense when Trent Williams is healthy. With him in the lineup, this team can get back to running the ball to the perimeter, forcing linebackers to flow, and creating cutback lanes that make life easier for Christian McCaffrey. Without him, those plays shrink. With him, they become weapons again. There's also a hidden advantage here that doesn't get talked about enough, and that's crowd control. Lincoln Financial Field is going to be loud, emotional, and hostile. One of the best ways to quiet a crowd is not with big passes or trick plays, but with long, physical drives that keep the offense on the field. Trent Williams helps you do that. Sustained runs, positive yardage on early downs, and fewer obvious passing situations all work in your favor, especially on the road in the playoffs. Let me ask you this. If Trent Williams is officially active, does that change your confidence level in this game even a little bit? Be honest. Drop a yes or no in the comments because for a lot of fans, this is the difference between hoping and believing. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, take a second to subscribe and like the video. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and playoff coverage is where this channel really locks in. Your support helps keep this going all the way through the postseason. Now, as huge as Trent Williams is, he's not the only offensive piece that could swing this matchup. There's another player whose availability could push this unit close to full strength, and his situation has been frustrating, confusing, and incredibly important all at the same time. Let's talk about what's going on with Ricky Pearsall, and why his status matters more than most people realize. Ricky Pearsall's situation has been one of the most frustrating storylines of the entire season, and it feels like every time the 49ers get close to having him fully available, something else pops up. That's not a knock on his talent, because when he's been on the field, he's produced. He stepped into a massive role with Brandon Ayuk out, and more often than not, he's looked like a receiver who belongs in that spot. The problem has never been ability. It's been availability. The encouraging part right now is that Pearsall is back at practice. Just like with Trent Williams, that alone is meaningful. It tells you the door is open, even if it's not fully unlocked yet. In a playoff game like this, where the margin for error is razor thin, having one more legitimate weapon can completely change how the defense lines up. If Pearsall is active, the Eagles can't just load up on Christian McCaffrey and dare someone else to win. They have to respect the perimeter, and that matters. There's also a bigger picture conversation that keeps coming up whenever Pearsall's name is mentioned. Can he be a true number one wide receiver long-term? Talent-wise, there's an argument to be made. He runs clean routes, he's reliable at the catch point, and he's shown he can handle volume. But durability is part of the job description at that position, especially for a player expected to carry a passing game. That's why every practice rep right now feels important. This isn't just about one game, it's about whether the 49ers can trust him when it matters most. If you look at the offensive depth chart as a whole, this is where things start to feel different. If Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall are both available, this offense is about as close to full strength as it's been in weeks. That doesn't guarantee anything against a good Eagles defense, but it gives Kyle Shanahan flexibility. It gives Brock Purdy cleaner reads. It gives McCaffrey lighter boxes. Those little advantages add up, especially in a playoff environment. I'm curious where you land on this. Do you trust Ricky Pearsall to stay healthy if the 49ers make a deeper playoff run? Yes or no? And while you're at it, drop a comment and tell me whether you see him as a long-term number one receiver or more of a high-end number two. Those opinions are all over the place right now. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and like the video. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and if this team keeps winning, you're going to want consistent coverage as this run unfolds. As much optimism as there is on offense, the other side of the ball tells a very different story. That's where the real concern lives, and it starts with a linebacker room that is suddenly paper-thin at the worst possible time. Let's get into what the defense is dealing with heading into this matchup. On the defensive side of the ball, this is where reality really sets in. Because while the offense is trending in the right direction, the linebacker situation is hanging by a thread. Injuries have absolutely torn through this unit, and now the 49ers are heading into a playoff game against a physical, run-heavy Eagles offense without the depth they'd normally rely on. That's not ideal under any circumstances, and it's especially dangerous when you're dealing with Saquon Barkley and a quarterback like Jalen Hurts who can hurt you with his legs. With key linebackers unavailable and others still questionable, the responsibility is going to fall heavily on players who may not have been expected to carry this kind of load at this point in the season. Eric Kendricks stepping in as the starting Mike linebacker is likely the best option the 49ers have right now. He's experienced, he's seen everything this league can throw at him, and while he may not be at his physical peak anymore, his football IQ matters in a game like this. Communication, alignment, and discipline are going to be critical, especially when the Eagles start using motion and option looks to stress the defense. That's where the signing of Kaiser White becomes so important. This isn't a flashy move, but it might be a necessary one. White is a veteran, he understands NFL offenses, and he's shown in the past that he can be productive, including a season where he logged over 100 tackles with the Eagles themselves. The big question is how quickly he can get up to speed. Learning a new system on short notice is never easy, but the 49ers may not have the luxury of waiting. They might need him out there, ready or not. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about Kaiser White potentially playing meaningful snaps in this game? Does that make you nervous, or do you trust the veteran experience? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those situations where opinions are all over the place. The timing of all this couldn't be worse. The Eagles' run game is built to punish thin linebacker units. Barkley is still one of the most powerful backs in the league, and Hurts adds an extra layer of stress with his mobility. Missed tackles, bad angles, or slow reactions can turn short gains into back-breaking plays. The 49ers don't need perfection here, but they do need discipline, and that's where experience might be the only thing that saves them. And then there's Fred Warner. Seeing him back on the field, even just running, is a reminder of what this defense is missing right now. He's not available for this game, but his presence alone shifts the conversation to what could come next. Because if, and that's a big if, the 49ers find a way to win in Philadelphia, suddenly everything changes. You're talking about momentum, confidence, and the possibility of reinforcements arriving at the perfect time. That's really what this all comes down to. None of these injury updates, lineup debates, or depth chart concerns matter, unless the 49ers take care of business in Philly. They're still underdogs, and that's fair. But if Trent Williams and Pearsall are available, if the offense can control the tempo, and if the defense can just survive long enough, this upset is not impossible. It's unlikely, sure, but playoff football has never been about what's likely. So let me leave you with this. What's the one reason you believe the 49ers can pull this off? Is it the run game, the coaching, or just that familiar feeling that this team isn't done yet? Drop it in the comments. If you want full coverage throughout this playoff run, make sure you're subscribed and help us push past 1,000 subscribers. Like the video if you appreciate the breakdown, and stick around, because if anything changes before kickoff, you'll hear it here first.